Okay, Dylan, this is lesson 4, and I think we're just going to do 5 this time around. Oh, no, let's go ahead and do 4, 5, and 6 for this. So 4 is add and subtract unlike fractions. So basically what happens is if you have two fractions that don't have the same denominator, you have to create equivalent fractions so that they do have the same denominator in order to add or excuse me. You have to create equivalent fractions with the same denominator in order to add or subtract them. Basically, you need to make them out of the same whole to combine or to take away. So the explanation right here says when you add or subtract fractions, the fractions must have the same denominator. Fractions with different denominators are unlike fractions. Before you can add or subtract unlike fractions, you must write equivalent fractions so that the fractions have common denominators. One way to find common or same denominator is to multiply the denominators. Excuse me. So basically what that means, multiply the denominators to get a common denominator. What that means is it's like an easy way to do it. However, a lot of times you're going to have to then reduce. So basically what they're saying is 1/2 times 1/3. So obviously these are not the same fractions, or they're not the same denominator, so they're unlike fractions. And to get a common denominator, you can just multiply those denominators and you would get 6, right? So 2 times 3 is 6. So then you have to think to yourself, what did I do to 2 to get this 6? I multiplied it by 3. So then I have to multiply the numerator by 3 also to get an equivalent fraction. So that is 3/6. Oops, this should be add. So 1/2 is equivalent to 3/6. And then if I multiply, then I've got to look at that next one, 1/3. And I want it to have a denominator of 6. So how do I get from 3 to 6? I multiply by 2, which means I have to multiply the numerator by 2 also. And to get an equivalent fraction to 1/3, I multiply by 2/2 to get 2/6. Then I can add my numerators and get 5/6. So that's what they're saying. And this is actually the legit way of doing this too, finding what we like to also call the lowest common multiple. Finding the common denominator by multiplying. You can find any common denominator by multiplying the two denominators together, but it's always smart to find the lowest common multiple to find the common denominator also, so then you don't have to reduce as much. So the problem we're going to be working with today looks like it has 2/4 and 1/2. So Renee is training for a swim team. On Monday, she swims 3/4 of a mile. On Wednesday, she swims 1/2 of a mile. How much further does Renee swim on Monday than on Wednesday? Show the problem. 3/4 minus 1/2. So 3/4 and 1/2 are unlike fractions. So we have to write equivalent fractions so that they have the same denominator. Multiply the denominators to find the common denominator. So we're going to multiply 2 times 4 to get a common denominator. 2 times 4 is 8, which means I am going to turn each one of my fractions to have a denominator of 8. So 3/4 is going to become a fraction, an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 8, and 1/2 is we're going to turn it into an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 8. So to get my denominator to be 8, I have to multiply 4 times 2. So I'm going to multiply the numerator by 2 also. So I'm multiplying 3/4 by 2/2 to get 6/8. And then 1/2 to make an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 8, I multiply the 2 times 4. So then I have to multiply the numerator times 4 also. So I'm multiplying 1/2 times 4/4 to get 4/8. So 3/4 becomes 6/8 and 1/2 becomes 4/8. 6/8 minus 4/8 equals 2/8. So, but you see right here, now I have to reduce it because 2/8 is not in its simplest form or its most reduced form. So the greatest common factor between 2 and 8 is 2. So I'm going to divide 2/8 by 2 over 2 and get 1/4. So she swam 1/4 of a mile further on Monday than she did on Wednesday. So another way of doing this, which I'm gonna do right here, 3/4 minus 1/2. Excuse me. So instead of just multiplying the denominators to get a common denominator, I can also find the largest common multiple, right? So my multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and so on. And my multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, and I can stop because I just said 4, which is also a multiple of 4. So 3/4 can stay the same. It has a denominator of 4. All I'm gonna do is change 1/2 to have a denominator of 4. So to get from 2 to 4, I multiply by 2. So I do that on top, and I get 2/4. So now I can subtract 3/4 minus 2/4 and get 1/4. And now I don't have to reduce. So sometimes it's better to do the work ahead of time, to do the thinking ahead of time than to have to reduce your answer. So this way I did that work by finding the lowest common multiples of 4 and 2. Did I say largest common multiple before? Lowest. This is lowest common multiple. So 2 and 4. My multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. My multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, and so on. So you can see they have 4 is the lowest number that they have in common. Now, obviously, they have 8 in common too, but then you'd had to reduce. This green box says find a common denominator for the fractions 3/8 and 4/8. So if we use the method that it says in the book, we would just multiply the denominators, and that would equal 32. So we could have 2 fractions with the denominator of 32. But another way of doing this is LCM, the lowest common multiple of 8 and 4. So my multiples of 8 are 8, 16, 24, and 32, and so on, right? And my multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. They have lots in common, right? But the lowest common multiple would be 8. So if I did it this way, there's a good chance I may not have to reduce. If I did it this way, I'm probably gonna have to reduce. All right, let's see what's next. To make salad dressing, Jacob mixed 2/3 cup vinegar with 1.5 cups olive oil. How much salad dressing does he make? Step 1, show the problem. 2/3 plus 1 1/2. So what we can do here is turn 1 1/2 into an improper fraction first. So that's what they do here. We've got, oh my gosh, sorry about this tripod I'm using. It's all over the place. We're gonna keep 2/3 the same for now, and we're gonna turn 1 1/2 into 2 halves. So to do that, you multiply the denominator times the whole number and add the numerator. So 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3 over 2. Find the common denominator. So now we've got this right here, 2/3 plus 3 halves. So a common denominator between those two denominators, 3 and 2, is 6. It's actually also the lowest common multiple, so this works for both ways that we talked about. So we multiply 2 times 3 equals 6. That is a common denominator. So 2/3 becomes 4/6, and 3 halves becomes 9/6. Now we add 4/6 plus 9/6 to get 13/6. Now we are going to have to reduce this or simplify it, because it is it is an improper fraction. So we're going to take 13 and divide it by 6. 6 can go into 13 2 times, which is 12, subtract and get 1. This 1 becomes the remainder, or the 1 is the remainder, and it becomes the numerator over the divisor, or the old denominator. So 13/6 becomes 2 and 1/6. He made 2 and 1/6 cups of salad dressing. What must you do before adding or subtracting unlike fractions? Find a common denominator, and then equivalent fractions. How can you find a common denominator for two unlike fractions? So we talked about this. You can either just multiply the denominators to find a common denominator, or you can use the LCM, the lowest common multiple. So LCM or multiply denominators. All right, so what you're gonna do is just find those common denominators and add or subtract, and then it does ask you to do it in simplest form. So hopefully you can recognize those numbers that need to be in simplest form. Obviously, if it's an improper fraction, you need to put it into a mixed number, and then if you see that the numerator and the denominator of any fraction have a factor that they both can be divided by that is greater than 1, then you can reduce it. So let's take a look at this one together. So we have 3/8 and 3/4, adding them. Now you can go ahead, like we did in that green box, you can multiply the denominators and you would get 32, both fractions, right? But in this case, I know that 8 is also a multiple of 4. So I know that 8 is the LCM of 8 and 4. So I'm going to keep 3/8 the same, and I'm going to change 3/4 into something over 8. So the equivalent fraction of 3/4 with a denominator of 8, I have to multiply by 2 over 2. So it becomes 6/8. Now I can add those and get 9/8. That is an improper fraction. So 8 can go into 9 one time with a remainder of 1 over 8. Okay. So you've got the rest of these to do. And then go ahead and give all of these a shot too. This is kind of time-consuming work. When you know how to do it, it's pretty. You can do it pretty quickly, but it is a little bit of time-consuming work because you do have to find those equivalent fractions. However, the next 2 lessons aren't going to be very time-consuming, so it's okay if this takes you a little bit longer. So go ahead and do all of these and Google chat me or email me if you have any questions on those. And let's take a look at lesson 5, understanding multiplication of fractions. So I actually like multiplying fractions better than adding and subtracting them because it's super, super simple. You don't have to do all of that work that you do when you add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. In multiplying, you just multiply across. Excuse me. So to multiply a fraction by a fraction, multiply the numerators, then multiply the denominators. Write the answer or the product in simplest form. When you multiply a given number by a fraction less than 1, the product is less than that given number. When you multiply a given number by a fraction greater than 1, the product is greater than that given number. So that may sound a little confusing, but basically what that means is if I have 4 times 1/2, because 1/2 is less than 1, whatever my product is going to be less than 4. Because I'm multiplying 4 by something that is less than 1, the answer is going to be less than 4. And but if I multiplied 4 times 1/2, okay, whatever my answer is going to actually be greater than both of these factors, because both of these factors are greater than 1. And then if I multiply 2 fractions, okay, so both those fractions are less than 1. 1/2 is obviously less than 1. Both fractions are less than 1, so my product is actually going to be less than 1. It's also going to be less than both of those factors. So that's a little confusing because when you multiply, you're so used to getting a number that is greater than you're used to getting a product that is greater than the factors, but that is not the case in this situation. So let's go ahead and look at this. 1/4 times 1/3 less than or greater than 1/4, then multiply. So basically what they're asking is my product going to be greater than or less than 1/4? And it's going to be less than because you're multiplying by a number that is less than 1. If you multiplied it by, if you multiplied 1/4 by something that was greater than 1, then your answer would be greater than 1/4, but not in